Welcome to Vlogmas Day 14. Today I am officially 6 weeks postpartum, which means I have a 6-week-old. I don't know how that's possible, but we're here and I can't believe that it's already been 6 weeks. So I wanted to sit down and film a 6-week postpartum update, talk to you guys about how my recovery process has been going. I had a C-section that was not planned after a failed induction. I want to talk about my breastfeeding journey and just kind of adjusting to life with a baby, because this is my husband and I's first child and we didn't have really any baby experience prior to this. So I just wanted to give an update, kind of talk about how things are going and just, you know, chat. So if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So just a little bit of general info. I am 26 years old. This was my first pregnancy. I went in at 39 weeks for an induction. I had a relatively normal pregnancy, no gestational diabetes, no complications or anything like that. The only thing was I had slightly elevated blood pressure. Wasn't anything extreme, but they just wanted to induce me at 39 weeks just to make sure things stayed looking good. So I went in, I was on medications to soften my cervix. I was having contractions, and after over 24 hours, I did not dilate for even a smidge, not even a smidge. I wasn't even, nothing, literally nothing happened after a full 24 hours of discomfort, contractions, and just not having a good time. So we ended up having a C-section. I say we, I guess me. And it was a stressful situation. It was high anxiety. It was all of those things, but I had no complications during my C-section. It went pretty smooth. So yeah, that's like a little summary of the background. If you want more details on like my labor and delivery story, I did a whole video on it. I'll have that linked down below. But basically, after labor and delivery, I have gone through a lot of major adjustments. So I guess we'll start off with my like physical recovery post C-section. I was, you know, I knew I was gonna have to go through a recovery either way, whether it was through my birth through the birth canal or via C-section. I feel like it wasn't as bad. It was bad, don't get me wrong. It was rough. It was a painful experience. Tears were shed. The actual C-section itself wasn't painful, but the following days and weeks were definitely very painful. So yeah, it was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was major abdominal surgery, but it wasn't as bad as what I had in my head. I was like thinking this was gonna be just like unmanageable. Like, I feel like we hear a lot about, you know, birth experiences, and a lot of times they're very extreme, or, you know, they could be really bad or they could be really good. But I feel like I had this very like unmanageable expectation in my mind, and it was not unmanageable for me. I know for some it is. People have different situations. I'm lucky that Jarvis has paternity leave, so he's been with me this whole entire time, from, you know, being in the hospital to coming home and doing these first 6 weeks with me. So I've had a lot of help. Our parents have helped us out a lot already, and you know, I can see where things would have been a lot harder, but luckily for me, I did have him, and he is able to help me, you know, get up out of bed and into bed and help, you know, hold her while I get ready to breastfeed, and just making things easier for me physically during this first bit of recovery. And so that is something huge, but it hasn't been unmanageable. The pain is not fun. Showering is a little bit scary in the beginning, but it was way less bad and scary than I expected. So if you're, you know, about to go through this, obviously I don't know what your experience is gonna be, but just know that it's not always like 10 out of 10 extreme, like bad and rough experience and things like that. Like, no matter what, like, it's childbirth. No matter what, you're gonna recover, you're gonna have pain, you're gonna have anxiety, no matter what. So that's already expected, but the level of that has not been nearly as intense as I anticipated. I was like picturing maxed out. I feel like, you know, we might be at like a 7, 8 sometimes, especially towards the beginning, but things do get better. Even though it feels like they're not going to, they do get better. At this point now, 6 weeks postpartum, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm definitely not anywhere near where I was like prior to pregnancy. I definitely still can tell, you know, things just feel different for me abdominally. I guess my incision is mostly healed now. It's, you know, some parts of it are completely healed, other parts are, you know, I wouldn't call it 100%, but we're getting close. So my incision has been healing really well. I did end up going back at 4 weeks postpartum roughly because I started experiencing a little bit of bleeding on both ends of my incision, and it was a little bit painful. I felt like it was kind of almost getting more painful, and I was worried about infection. So I called the doctor and I was like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Like, should I, you know, come get checked out? And they were like, yeah, like it doesn't sound like urgent or anything, but you know, you can come in tomorrow. It was the following day. I went in, the doctor looked at me, he said, yeah, like I can see a little bit like where the bleeding was coming from. It was very, very minimal, but I just wanted to be overly cautious and, you know, aware of the situation because I know that infection can escalate quickly. So if you have any concerns, just talk to your doctor. But I went in, everything was fine. He said I didn't need any additional stitches or anything like that. So that was about 2 weeks ago, and since then I have definitely healed so much, even on those ends that were like just kind of barely not quite healing like the rest of my incision. So at this point, I would say at least the outside of my incision is probably like 90% healed. As far as, you know, just generally speaking. Internally, who knows what's going on. I know they have to go through lots of layers, and there's a lot of internal healing as well. So, but as far as pain goes, a little bit on the ends of my incision. Sometimes if I move the wrong way, it feels just kind of like I have like a healing cut there. Nothing, it's like literally like a 0.2 out of 10 pain. And that's like if I twist the wrong way, or if like my clothing like presses weird on my incision the wrong way, that type of thing. But as far as like internal pain goes, at the moment I don't have any, so that's great. I would say the first 4 weeks, the 4-week point is where I noticed like internally, like, oh, like I'm starting to feel almost normal again. Like it's significant, a significant drop off in pain at that 4-week mark for me. And then even now it's like I look back to last week and I thought I was doing good, and now I feel like I'm doing even better than that. So luckily up until this point my recovery has been going great. I also wanted to talk about breastfeeding and mental health, like my mental health situation as well as my breastfeeding journey, because I know that I had mentioned prior that my plan was to breastfeed if that was possible. So I'm here to tell you that my breastfeeding journey has been going very well. I was a little nervous. I don't know, I hear, you know, sometimes people plan on it and then they can't do it for physical reasons, for mental health reasons, emotional reasons, just lots of different reasons. And I didn't know how it was gonna go for me, so I had the open mind that, you know, it might not work out for me for one of many reasons, but so far it's been working out really well. In the beginning, I didn't know if I was gonna make it. I'm not gonna lie. I think I was just talking to my mom about this earlier today. I think the most painful part of this, the most like mentally like demanding and emotionally like rough part of this whole entire process for me has been breastfeeding. And in the first 2 to 3 weeks was 99% of that, like, you know, not so positive energy was all around breastfeeding, and it was rough. There were moments where I thought, I can't do this. Like I would get these waves of emotion and I just would cry constantly, especially the first like 4 days home from the hospital. I just felt so bad. I felt so sad, like not for like any specific reason. I just felt all of a sudden, like, it's like the most powerful feeling of like I can't do this, sadness, stress, just feeling overwhelmed, all as much as I can possibly imagine, like as intense as I can imagine. I would have these waves of that, and that was something that I was really like I can't, this isn't like, I'm gonna put myself in a bad situation if I keep, you know, letting myself deal with this, because you know, I'm choosing to try to breastfeed. Like, that's a choice that I made, and I'm like, why am I putting this on myself? Because mentally I'm not doing well, physically I'm not doing well, and you know, I tried my best to stick it out. Everything I looked up was like, oh, like it gets better after 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm like, there's no way, I can't make it 6 to 8 weeks. Like, I'm not going to be okay. Like, this is too painful, too much, too overwhelming. But I will say that 2-week mark, it was like we were at a 10 out of 10, and then we came down to like a 6, 7 out of 10, and I was like, okay, I can like breathe a little bit. And now 6 weeks postpartum, it's basically a non-issue for me. I won't say a non-issue, there's still stressful elements of it, and I still can get emotional about it and overwhelmed, but we're hanging out at like a 1.52 out of 10. And I actually just watched a video, Raw Beauty Christy posted a video, and she talked about how her breastfeeding journey and how she's breastfeeding her son, who's currently 3 years old, which is like not, I would say, a common occurrence here, at least. And that's not, you know, I watched it because to me that sounded like wow, like how are you doing that, you know? Like I wanted to hear her experience, and after hearing it, I, you know, don't see myself ever being in that situation, like just choosing for myself personally. But I, you know, was curious. I was like, oh, I want to hear what she has to say. And she talked a lot about like the beginning stages of breastfeeding, and everything she was saying, I was like, yes, that's how I felt. Like the pain that you feel, the engorgement, the discomfort, the wave of, you know, I can't do this and feeling overwhelmed. I was like, yes, I experienced all of those things. So, you know, I would say go watch her, you know, video with an open mind, of course. I don't plan on breastfeeding Luna for that long. I think I would say my goal is to exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months, or until we start introducing like food, like purees and stuff like that, whenever her doctor says that we can start doing that, and then weaning off from there. That's my plan at this very moment. Things change, who knows? I don't judge anybody for their breastfeeding journey, their decisions, even if you don't breastfeed at all and you don't even want to try to breastfeed. I know some people don't. I actually saw a TikTok the other day, and this girl had decided to use the like ice pack pads to prevent her breast milk production, which I was like, I didn't even think about that, like, you know, option, because that was never the plan for me personally. But everybody's journey is different, so, you know, I'm completely judge free. You know, whatever you want to do is what's best for you. But for me, that's my plan. The pain was so bad in the beginning. The engorgement was unmanageable, unbearable. I feel like I have a very high milk supply, because in the beginning, it was like Luna couldn't eat enough or drink enough. I don't know what you say, but it was like she couldn't take enough milk away from me for me to have any sort of relief. So I was pumping like nonstop. I pumped after every single feed. I just needed the relief, and I know that pumping in addition to feeding can cause an increased demand, which causes more milk to be produced. But it was to the point where I couldn't not pump, because my boobs were rock hard. They were so incredibly painful. I was constantly just leaking, and it was a nightmare. So I had to pump, even if it was like 2 ounces from each side, which again, everyone is different when it comes to breast milk production. So if I'm telling you that I'm pumping 2 ounces extra to get a tiny bit of relief, that might not be what's normal for you. You know, you might not feel the need to pump at all because you are, you know, not feeling engorged whatsoever. But yes, I think my milk supply is very high. I obviously don't know how to compare that. I don't have anything to compare it to because I don't know anybody else that breastfeeds personally, and you know, it's hard to say. But yeah, that first 2 weeks, there were times where I had to just like give Luna to Jarvis, go sit in the shower and just let hot water like run over me for like 10-15 minutes and just try to hand express just to get any bit of relief. So if you are in this situation and you are just like feeling engorged and uncomfortable and just the worst, just know that it does not last forever. That's what I kept seeing. It only lasted 2 weeks for me. After that 3rd week, I was cruising with breastfeeding. I'm lucky that it wasn't difficult for me. I mean, we had some, you know, it was tricky, but it wasn't overly difficult for me to get her to have a good latch or anything. So, you know, there's been certain things that I've been like lucky with. And I also am lucky to have the milk supply that I do because I can feed her, and you know, she's gaining her weight, she's having all of her wet diapers and all of the things, and I'm still like, I just have so much extra. So 6 weeks postpartum, I have to wear a bra 24/7. I have to wear nursing pads 24/7 because my boobs will leak breast milk. That might sound kind of weird, but that it is what it is. I have to have something there, unless I just want to be covered in breast milk, which is not that's not what I'm looking for. So I ended up ordering like washable breast pads. I started off with a box of disposable ones that someone had given me that they like didn't use, and I used them up completely, and then I was like, dang, like yeah, I need to keep this up. So I bought like a 12 pack, so it's like 6 pairs or something like that on Amazon of reusable, washable, like bamboo breast pads. They're circles like this, and I just keep them in my bra, and I have to wear those 24/7. I don't know if that will stop while I'm currently breastfeeding, or if I have to wait until I stop breastfeeding for that to stop. I don't know. But I've gotten used to it. It's not that big of a deal to me anymore. So that's something that I did not expect. You know, I did research on breastfeeding prior to this, but that was something that I like didn't even consider, was my boobs leaking 24/7. So it's not like lots and lots of milk anymore, but it's still like enough to where I feel that I have to have those nursing pads in at all times. So that's been my breastfeeding journey so far. I am thankful to have the milk supply that I have. I'm thankful that so far things have been going good. We don't really use bottles. We tried to kind of incorporate that, especially in the beginning, but it's just, I say it's easier for me to breastfeed, but it's not easy. None of this is easy. It's, you know, it's a lot, but she doesn't really take a bottle very well. She has, you know, taken it the few times that we've tried, but in the beginning when I was pumping so much, I still needed her to nurse because I still needed that additional relief. So it was kind of hard to figure out when to incorporate a bottle. So we literally maybe tried like less than 10 times, like less than 10 bottles, and we haven't tried a bottle in weeks at this point. I have frozen quite a bit of breast milk, so anytime I pump now, I just go ahead and put it in a bag and freeze it. Sometimes I do have to pump like just like from one side, like, you know, 3 or 4 ounces, because I can just tell like I'm feeling a little extra heavy on that side. So I'll just go ahead and do that real quick and then put it in a bag and freeze it. I don't really put it in the fridge anymore. I used to put all my little bottles in the fridge so that we could use them, but you have to use it within just a couple days. So we don't even do that anymore. We just go right to the freezer, and if we have to reach for that milk, then we will. But I'm, you know, at this point I might be pumping less than 5 ounces a week, and that's, you know, maybe about 5 ounces a week if I need. So I could pump a lot more, but then I know my supply is going to go up, and we're kind of balancing out now. So yeah, that's my breastfeeding journey. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know in the comments down below. I know a lot of people wanted to hear about my breastfeeding journey. So the first 2 weeks were rough. I was in the trenches for a while. My mental health was not doing too hot. We'll go ahead and transition into that. But yeah, mental health has been interesting. I'm someone who has always experienced anxiety. I am a very anxious person. I have social anxiety. I have just general anxiety about everything. And I'm, you know, a paranoid person. Like, I feel like the worst thing is gonna happen, or something's always gonna go wrong. And then the anxiety kind of goes hand in hand with that. So I have had quite a bit of postpartum anxiety, especially in the beginning. That first week I was like I couldn't, if Luna was sleeping, I couldn't like go 5-10 minutes if I was awake without like looking at her chest and staring at her to make sure like she's still good, like I see movement, because I just was very like, you know, I'm learning about all these new things that can go wrong, and it's scary to think about, but you need to know these things so that you can be prepared as much as you can in the event that something does happen. And people always think, oh, it won't be me, but you know, you gotta, you know, do what you can. So it's kind of a balance there of exposing yourself to the things that can go wrong and being prepared, and just letting things happen and releasing the feeling of needing to control things when you don't have control over them. There's some things you just can't control. So that's been, you know, a journey for me my whole life, but then especially postpartum, I have had, you know, an increase in postpartum anxiety for sure. I don't think that I've, you know, had any experience really in postpartum depression, at least not at this point. In those first couple weeks, if you asked me, I would have said like, you know, I can see this being a slippery slope. There were definitely moments where I felt like, you know, depressed or overwhelmed, or just like I wasn't doing okay. But it wasn't like a constant feeling for me, and it was mostly just in those like first like 4 or 5 days home. And then things started getting better. I was thinking about just like lots of things, and just being, I think just being overwhelmed, overtired, because you don't sleep a lot in the beginning especially. And all of these things adding up together just was a lot. It was overwhelming. That's the best way that I can put it. So thankfully at this moment in time, I don't feel as though, you know, depressed or like I have postpartum depression. I, you know, filled out the postpartum survey at my last doctor's appointment. He said my score was good. He asked me how I was doing. You know, I told him, you know, first few days were pretty rough, and had some moments of, you know, this is feeling unmanageable, but it's not, you know, I got through it, and luckily I have a great support system, like I said, with my husband, my parents, his parents, like everyone is here for us. And you know, we basically cut ourselves off from a lot for those first few weeks. Our sense of time is kind of out the window. Sleep, feeding, and changing diapers, and wake windows, and tummy time, all of this stuff is a lot, and it's a lot to manage. We're trying to navigate things. We've gotten to the point where, you know, during the day is, you know, it's a lot, and we basically are giving constant attention to her, but we're able to get a couple of like decent stretches of sleep at night, which thank goodness, because there were some nights where we had to take shifts where I was up from midnight to 6 a.m. and then Jarvis took over from 6 a.m. until she had to eat again, which was usually only like, you know, 2 to 3 hours max. So, and then I would sleep for a couple hours, feed her, sleep for a couple hours, feed her. It was rough, but we got through it. Luckily right now, you know, we're not getting a full night of sleep by any means, but we are getting enough to function. So we're grateful for that. And like I said, Jarvis is thankfully on paternity leave with, you know, so he's able to just give full attention, and he is willing and ready to help. I know there's people that, you know, are not nearly as lucky, and I gotta say a shout out to Jarvis, because I don't know, I see some of these TikToks and like people talking about their significant others and, you know, how not helpful they are, or their unavailability to be helpful, and I'm just like, wow. My respect for single parents is, I always have respected single parents. My parents have been married since they got married before I was born. I grew up in a, you know, your typical, you know, family, household, whatever. So that I have never experienced having separated or divorced parents or a single parent or anything like that, thank goodness. And that was something that I was always like, I always like recognized that I was very lucky for that. And so I knew, like, you know, single parents they're heroes, but after like going through it, I don't know how people do this. I don't know how single parents do this. I don't know how parents who, you know, their significant other doesn't get time off from work to help. I don't know how. I don't know. It's incredible. So I have mad respect for people who, any parent whatsoever, but especially single parents. It's just, that's I'm gonna cry thinking about it, because those are literal superheroes. But yeah, my mental health has definitely gotten a lot better. I still have moments of, you know, feeling overwhelmed, and, you know, once you start feeling overwhelmed, just everything else just seems bigger than it is, like a bigger issue than it is. And then, you know, an hour goes by and I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have, you know, been so upset at Jarvis for something that had nothing to do with him, or you know, something that Jarvis said, which, you know, a lot of times I see, at least online, that it's having a baby is straining on couples, and I can definitely see that. I know, like, a lot of times relationships end up not working out after having kids, for many reasons. I will say Jarvis and I definitely would get on each other's nerves a little bit more than we used to, but a big part of that has been being overtired and exhausted and not having sleep and feeling overwhelmed. And there were moments at 4 a.m. when she's not, you know, nothing we're doing is helping her stop crying. We can't get her to sleep in her crib, and, you know, all of the things we're like, what else is there to do? Like, you know, all you can feel is like I feel like I'm failing. And sometimes you can get a little snippy with each other, and Jarvis is like, hey, like, we're on the same team here. We don't need to be getting upset at each other for, again, something that we can't control. So just remembering that you're on the same team, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes, you'll have less of that, like, regret, you know, when you're like hangry, or you're like upset because something bad happened or annoying happened, you know, you got stuck in traffic or whatever, and then you get mad, like you project your anger on someone who had nothing to do with what caused that anger, and then later on you realize, and you're like, oh man, like I definitely was acting out of line there, and you have that little bit of regret. You'll have less of that regret feeling if you just remind yourself that you're on the same team, and it's okay to feel those things, but just you know, verbalize that, communicate it, and, you know, if your partner, your significant other is on the same page as you, then that's, I would say, the best way to go about this. There's going to be issues that come up, there's going to be fights that come up, you're going to be annoyed or feel things, you know, whatever, but again, it doesn't last forever and you will get through it. So I know that we're, you know, probably coming up on some whole new hurdles, but it has gotten easier. It's not easy. It's not easy. Life is still definitely very difficult right now, and it's a lot to manage, but it has gotten easier, and I'm sure it'll get harder in a couple weeks, but we will see how it goes and take it from there. So I completely lost my train of thought. Our doorbell rang because we actually ordered some cinnamon rolls from a neighbor. They posted in our like neighborhood Facebook group saying that their niece was visiting and she's saving up for college, so she's like selling homemade cinnamon rolls. So I'm gonna show you them because they look so good and the presentation is incredible, so I gotta show you guys that, but I had to go answer the door and get those. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like that's, you know, general update. I know I talked a lot, I know I talked really fast, so again, if you have any questions, let me know down below. I am doing a postpartum health and fitness journey. I am going to document it. I want to be raw and real and vulnerable and document it, share it. I'm gonna take it easy. I'm not trying to, you know, bounce back or anything like that. I just want to start incorporating healthier things into my life and just kind of getting back on track because, you know, things, it gets hard when you're pregnant, postpartum, you know. I just want to start feeling normal again, and I'm kind of getting there, but I want to start doing things that make me feel normal again. So I'm excited for this postpartum health journey. That's going to be tomorrow's vlogmas video, my introduction. I'll show you guys an update on, instead of a bump update, just like what my belly's looking like right now. I figured I would, you know, show you guys like how like my stretch marks are looking and things like that postpartum. And again, I just want to be open and vulnerable and just share this because I feel like I would like and appreciate somebody else doing this and me being able to watch that, especially like in anticipation. But it is fun to watch, like, you know, if you've already gone through this or while you're going through it. So if you guys are interested, I'm gonna do like a whole video series, start documenting it, and we'll do meal ideas, workouts, just like healthier lifestyle changes. I want to do like progress photos and videos, and just, you know, sharing my physical health and fitness journey as well as mental health journey and just all of the things that come with it. So that's gonna be tomorrow's vlogmas video. It's day one basically of my postpartum health and fitness journey. Ironically enough, today, to the day, 6 weeks postpartum to the day, I started my first period in almost a year. So I believe that's what it is. My, you know, postpartum bleeding stopped probably like 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. So you know, I'm pretty sure that this is my first postpartum period. Also, I did start birth control. I was not on birth control when I got pregnant. I was prior to that. I was on like whatever oral birth control. I don't even know what it was called. I feel like it was like the generic version of Yaz or something like that, or maybe that is the generic version. Lorena, something like that, I don't know, but it was just some oral birth control is what I was on for a couple years, and then I was like, I don't know how I feel about hormonal birth control, and then so I stopped, and then 6 months later ended up getting pregnant. And now I decided to start the mini pill, I think is what it's called. It is a progesterone only pill. I think it's only like one of the 2 hormones that are typically in birth control. Again, not a doctor, don't take my medical advice. This is not medical advice. Don't take what I'm telling you to be 100% truth. But yeah, so I think it's a progesterone only pill, so it's safe for breastfeeding. and I just started that, so we'll see, you know, that's gonna be that. I was stuck between that and doing like the copper IUD because again, I didn't want to do something hormonal, like, and I don't even know that I could have done something hormonal because I am breastfeeding, so I know that puts limitations on you if you are breastfeeding, like what kind of contraception you can use. So the progesterone only pill is one that you can use while you're breastfeeding, so that's what I decided to go with. I kind of got spooked by the whole IUD thing because of like some horror stories that I've heard, and just, I don't know. I did well on oral birth control before, taking it at the same time every day, things like that. So med check. If you are like an OG Twitch stream watcher, you remember my 9 o'clock alarm going off and yelling med check. But anyway, I guess that's it for today's video. I'm excited for tomorrow. It's gonna be good. Oh, let me show you guys the cinnamon rolls because they look so freaking good. Let me show you. Oh, Miss Luna's crying. She's probably hungry. But look at this. Look at this. She literally wrote my name and wrote thank you. It's raining outside. But she wrapped them up all nice and they look so yummy. I cannot wait to eat these. They look incredible. So yeah, awesome. So excited about this. The packaging is beyond adorable. I opened the door and I was not expecting this whatsoever, but yeah, that's gonna be it for today's vlogmas video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you all so much, and I will see you tomorrow for vlogmas day 15. Bye.